Today's lesson is a lizard full of tricks. Hi, everybody. I'm Roger.
And I'm Helen.
And today we're going to continue talking about the chameleon. And, of course, today is the last day of March, so we want to end on a high note by talking about this magical lizard that everybody knows and loves so much. They're actually quite fun to draw. I suggest you take your sketchbook to the zoo and do a sketch of chameleons. They are fascinating creatures. And what did we learn about them last time, Helen?
Well, we learned that they are masters of disguise because they are able to change color at will, which means that they can decide when they want to change color. And this ability to change color has many reasons. So one is to blend into their environment, and another is to adjust their body temperature when they're too hot or too cold. And the third one might be to give a message to a fellow chameleon. So if they're feeling angry or if they want to mate or approach another chameleon, they might change colors and patterns to convey that message.
Exactly. We also talked about the fact that they can move their eyes in different directions. That is another of their special characteristics. And today we're going to talk about some more of those special characteristics, especially what a chameleon can do with its tongue. Let's find out. Let's listen to the first part, and we'll be right back to discuss it.
A chameleon's tongue is a deadly weapon. When a chameleon locks onto its prey, a tasty-looking bug, for example, it shoots out its tongue with lightning speed, capturing the poor creature in the blink of an eye. One chameleon species can even shoot its tongue out at speeds of 5 meters per second. The tongue can also be more than twice as long as the chameleon itself and is covered in thick, glue-like spit. The poor bug doesn't stand a chance.
大家好，第一部分我们可以看到单字 deadly， 它是形容词，指的是致命的或是致死的。例如 Health officials are battling a deadly strain of influenza. 保健官员正在对抗一种致命的流行性感冒病毒。或者 George went to the hospital because he was bitten by a deadly snake. George 被一条致命的毒蛇咬了而去医院。接下来我们看到名词 prey， 它的意思是猎物或是捕食对象。举例来说 After failing to take down a deer, the wolf set its sights on smaller prey. 因为那只狼没有捉住鹿，它就把目光放在体型较小的猎物上。又或者说 Due to their slow speed and slow reaction time, sloths are easy prey for jaguars. 由于速度与反应都很缓慢，树懒对美洲豹而言是容易猎食的猎物。再来，我们看到片语 in the blink of an eye， 指的是转瞬间或是一眨眼的功夫。例如 When the stock market crashed, Doug saw his life savings vanish in the blink of an eye. 股市崩盘时 Doug 看着他一辈子的积蓄在转瞬间全没了。或是After the freshly baked cookies were set out, they disappeared in the blink of an eye. 现烤饼干摆出来后，一眨眼就没了。接着我们看到单字 species， 也可以念作 species， 它是名词，意思是生物的物种或是种。举例来说 Those two bears look similar, but they actually belong to two different species. 那两只熊看起来很相似，但其实属于两个不同的品种。或者 Some species of spiders are as large as a dinner plate. 有些种类的蜘蛛跟餐盘一样大。
So we're looking at chameleons and their special abilities, and today we're going to look at some features that are not so cute or friendly. So first of all, a chameleon's tongue is a deadly weapon. So deadly means able to kill someone, able to kill people, other animals. When a chameleon locks onto its prey, a tasty-looking bug, for example, it shoots out its tongue with lightning speed, capturing the poor creature in the blink of an eye. So when you lock onto something, you're locating its position. and you are ready to approach that thing or to attack that thing. So when a chameleon locks onto its prey, which is another animal that the first animal wants to eat or catch, then it will use its tongue to capture the poor creature.
Exactly. So that's its special characteristic regarding its tongue, the thing inside its head that is usually used to taste things. At least that's what humans use their tongues for, just to taste things. But in the case of a chameleon, it uses its tongue to capture its prey, to catch them and bring them into its mouth so that it can eat those things. So yes, indeed, the chameleon's tongue is a deadly weapon. Something's deadly when it causes death. Like if you run into a poisonous spider, it's got a poisonous bite, so you might want to be careful. Oh, be careful with that spider. Its bite is deadly. If it bites you, you will die. And yes, indeed, I don't think a chameleon could kill a human with its tongue, but it could probably cause a certain amount of damage, and it can certainly kill lots of bugs. So yes, indeed, when a chameleon locks onto its prey, a tasty-looking bug, for example, it shoots out its tongue with lightning speed, capturing the poor creature in the blink of an eye. If you talk about something happening so fast that you almost can't see it, you can describe it this way. It happened in the blink of an eye. Some people might say in the flash of an eye. I've even heard someone say in the wink of an eye. If you wink your eye, of course, you just close one of them. But blinking means you close both of them rather quickly. We're always blinking all day long, and we do it so often that we don't really notice it. So yes, indeed, the chameleon will lock on to that bug, and it will grab the bug and bring it back into its mouth. And if you're not paying attention, you'll miss it because it happens in the blink of an eye.
That's right. So if you go on to YouTube and look at some videos of chameleons catching prey, then you'll see exactly how quickly its tongue moves. Now, one chameleon species can even shoot its tongue out at speeds of 5 meters per second. So we're talking about one particular species of chameleon, and species is a word that refers to an animal group or plant group whose members all have similar features and they are able to produce young with one another. So there are different species of chameleon, and one species can even shoot its tongue out at speeds of 5 meters per second. 5 meters per second is indeed quite fast.
So yes, indeed, that is quite fast, and the tongue can also be more than twice as long as the chameleon itself and is covered in thick, glue-like spit. That's kind of hard to believe. How can a tongue that is twice as long as a chameleon fit inside the body of the chameleon? I think there's a special way that they kind of wind the tongue inside the head or something like that. Just like when you go fishing with a rod and reel, you wind the string in onto a reel. It kind of goes around in circles. That might be what's happening with a chameleon.
Right. And not only is it long, and it possibly winds in the mouth so that the length of the tongue can fit into the body, the mouth of the chameleon, the tongue is also covered in a thick glue-like spit. So the spit is thick and sticky so that when it's trying to capture an insect, the insect will stick onto the tongue so that the tongue can retract and the insect will be taken by the tongue into the chameleon's mouth. And the poor bug doesn't stand a chance. And here, stand a chance means to be likely to survive or to win in a battle. So if a little bug has to fight against a chameleon with such a quick and long tongue, it's not going to stand a chance. It's not going to survive.
Right, and stand a chance here is often used in the negative. So-and-so doesn't stand a chance. The hiker got lost in the mountains, so he doesn't stand a chance of surviving because he's already been out there for several weeks. Okay, that brings us to the end of the first part of our lesson for today. It's time now to find out about another special characteristic of chameleons, the fact that it can't regrow its tail. How pitiful.
Unlike most lizards, a chameleon cannot regrow its tail. Despite its many other talents, the chameleon lacks one ability that many other lizards possess. When predators attack, many lizards can break their own tails off and leave them behind as a distraction, later gradually growing them back. However, if a predator were to bite off a chameleon's tail, the loss would be permanent. And it wouldn't be a minor loss either, as the chameleon's tail is like a fifth limb, one that can support its entire weight and allow it to swing safely between branches.
第二部分我们看到单字 possess， 它是动词，意思是拥有或是具备。举例来说 ，Many people go to Thailand for vacation because it possesses some beautiful beaches. 很多人去泰国度假是因为它拥有一些美丽的海滩。或是 The character in the comic book possesses magical powers. 这本漫画里的角色拥有神奇的力量。接着我们看到名词 predator， 指的是掠食者或是捕食性动物。例如 The polar bear is the largest predator in North America. 北极熊是北美最大型的掠食者。或是 Dragonflies are one of the most effective predators in the animal world, possessing a 95% success rate when capturing prey in midair. 蜻蜓是动物界中最有效率的捕食者之一，在空中猎食的时候有 95% 的成功率。最后我们看到单字 distraction， 它是名词，意思是令人分心的事物或是分散注意力的东西。我们可以说 It's a good idea to eliminate distractions while you're working. 在你工作时去除令人分心的东西是个好主意。也可以说 I can't study in coffee shops where there are too many distractions. 我不能在有太多干扰的咖啡厅里念书。
And here is the last piece of information about chameleons that we're going to talk about. Unlike most lizards, a chameleon cannot regrow its tail. Now, despite its many other talents, the chameleon lacks one ability that many other lizards possess. So here, possess simply means to have. What special skills or talents do you possess? The interviewer might ask you if you're interviewing for a job. So I might say, I possess great organizational skills, or I might say that I'm very punctual and dedicated. So one particular skill that the chameleon does not possess is the ability to regrow its own tail.
Indeed, many kinds of lizards can replace its own tail if it is removed. And this is what happens here when predators attack. Many lizards can break their own tails off and leave them behind as a distraction, later gradually growing them back. So this is why they do it. Some species of lizard will break off their own tail, and they're doing this to avoid predators. A predator, of course, is an animal that attacks and kills another animal for food, okay? So, of course, when eagles attack mice on the ground or rats on the ground, we can say that the eagle is the predator and the rat is the prey. So, in this particular case, you might have a larger animal like a beaver or a muskrat or something trying to eat a chameleon, or a lizard, I should say. And so the lizard is really scared and thinks, I'm going to fool this beaver by dropping my tail there so that the beaver will attack the tail and then I can get away.
Right, and the tail is probably still wiggling and moving, so it really does serve as a distraction for the predator, and meanwhile the lizard has gotten away and has survived. However, this isn't the case with chameleons. If a predator were to bite off a chameleon's tail, the loss would be permanent. So if something is permanent, then it will exist for a long time or it will exist forever. And you can have permanent residence, for example, in a country, which means that you can live there for a very long time or perhaps for the rest of your life, as opposed to a temporary resident, which means that you can only be there for a limited amount of time.
Right, so yes, indeed, the loss of the tail is permanent. It has to spend the rest of its life without a tail, and that can be a great disadvantage. For example, one example of permanent is perhaps you've been a smoker for many years, but you quit. But, well, that's nice, but they do say that smoke will give permanent damage to your lungs. They'll never fully recover. And in this particular case, yes, the loss of the tail for the chameleon will be permanent, and it wouldn't be a minor loss either, as the chameleon's tail is like a fifth limb, one that can support its entire weight and allow it to swing safely between branches. So sometimes when we lose something, we can consider it a minor loss. Oh, well, somebody stole my bicycle. That's okay. I can always buy a new one. They're not that expensive. It's a minor loss. But for a chameleon, it's a major loss because it will directly influence its ability to survive.
Right. So the tail is very important to the chameleon because the chameleon uses it for a lot of things. The chameleon's tail is like a fifth limb, one that can support its entire weight and allow it to swing safely between branches. So a limb is a part of your body that sticks out. You can say that your arms and your legs are your limbs. That's for the human body. So in this case, the tail of a chameleon is like a fifth limb, because the other four limbs are its legs and its arms, its frontal arms, and the tail would be the fifth limb.
Okay, that brings us to the end of the second part of our lesson for today. It's time now to refer to the third part. Let's listen.
In summary, the more you learn about the chameleon, the more you realize that it's much more than just an expert at hide and seek. Indeed, it's more like a scaly Swiss Army knife.
To conclude with our lesson on chameleons, here it says, in summary, the more you learn about the chameleon, the more you realize that it's much more than just an expert at hide and seek. Indeed, what we knew about chameleons before was that it was able to change colors and patterns, and we thought that it was only because it was trying to hide from predators or to blend into its environment. But as we have seen from this lesson, there are a lot of other talents that the chameleon has.
Exactly. So we've learned quite a bit about the chameleon, and we've got this pattern, the more something, the more something else. So the more you learn about the chameleon, the more you realize that it's much more than just an expert at hide and seek. So here, of course, we mentioned a game that children like to play, hide and seek. That's similar to playing tag, but when you play hide and seek, somebody will cover their eyes and count to, I don't know, 20 or 10 or something like that, and then the other person goes out to hide. So that's a game of hide and seek. And I guess similarly, we have to look really hard to find a chameleon if it's blending in to its surroundings.
So the chameleon isn't just an expert at hide and seek. Indeed, it's more like a scaly Swiss Army knife. So first of all, the word scaly. A scaly animal has skin like the skin of a fish or a snake. It's hard and it's covered in layers of this hard plate. So reptiles are scaly. Fish are also scaly. In fact, if you go to the market, the wet market or a fishmonger, and you buy a whole fresh fish, you might ask the vendor, the salesperson, to take off the scale first with a knife or a special tool so that you don't have to do that when you take the fish home, when you clean it and cook it. So you take off the scale of the fish. And a fish that has scales can be said to be a scaly animal. So the chameleon isn't just a scaly animal that knows how to play hide and seek. It's more like a Swiss Army knife. Now, what is a Swiss Army knife, Roger?
A Swiss Army knife is a special kind of pocket knife. It's usually red in color, and it's got the little Swiss cross on there, and then it has various functions like a big blade to cut things, a smaller blade to cut smaller things, and it might have a toothpick built into it, a little pair of scissors, can opener or a bottle opener, a screwdriver. It will have various little functions, and we're comparing the Swiss Army knife to a chameleon because a chameleon has many different talents. Remember, it can move its eyes independently. It can change color to reflect its moods. It can move its tongue rather fast to capture insects. And of course, it can swing from branch to branch using its tail. So it is truly a jack of all trades in the animal kingdom. That brings us to the end of our discussion for today. Let's turn things over now to Hanny.
各位同学大家好，我是 Hanny。 我们来看今天的文法重点。课文第二部分有一个句子提到变色龙缺乏许多其他蜥蜴拥有的能力，那文中是用动词 possess 来表达拥有具备的意思。我们来学它的字首字根。好，当我们看到 sess 或者是 sed sid 或是 side 这一类字根呢，它就有 sit就是做或是就做的意思，那它们带有保持在某种状态的含义。在 possess 这个字当中，它的字首 pos 表示具有掌控力，那么 sess 这个字根表示做。同学们也许可以用坐拥掌控权去联想到 possess 它有支配啊、持有、占有、拥有的意思。好，我们也来补充几个有相同字根的单字。第一个是 session， 它的字根 sess 表示做，ion 是名词字尾。那同学们可以试着想想看，什么场合需要大家坐下来呢？通常就是有开会集会的时候，那么 session 这个字就可以表达会议、会期，那它也可以指说从事某项活动的一段时间啊、一节这样子。好，第二个补充的是 obsess， 它的字首 ob 有对抗的意思，字根 sess 表示做。那同学们可以试着联想，当你看到心爱的偶像，就好像被困坐在那边，完全无法抵抗他的魅力，整个人都被迷住了。所以 obsess 这个动词就有着迷、迷住的意思。第三个补充的是 assess，它的字首 as 是来自 ad 表示朝向，那么字根 sess 表示做。assess 这个字的典故呢，其实是从字面意思坐在一旁来描述这个法官助理在旁边协助处理罚款或是税款的事情，那主要就是去估算财产价值啊，才知道要付多少税款，因此 assess 它就有估价、征税、对什么评估的意思。好，那么课文第二部分有一个句子写到，However, if a predator were to bite off a chameleon's tail, the loss would be permanent. 然而，要是掠食者咬断变色龙的尾巴，这个损失将是永久性的。我们这边先介绍一下 be 动词加上 to 加原形动词，这是表达将要怎么样，计划做什么什么。好，那我们用到 if 主词were to 加原形动词，则是用来表示未来的假设情况。那我们来看看这个句型哦。if 主词 were to 加原形动词，逗号，主词 would should could 或是 might 加原形动词。这个句型就是表达如果怎么样怎么样，要是怎么样怎么样的话，那这通常是指未来发生几率很低或是极不可能发生的情况。举例来说，If she were to quit her job and become a full-time housewife, she would definitely not be happy. 要是她辞掉工作，成为全职家庭主妇的话，她一定不会开心的。好，那补充一下，我们也可以把 if 主词 were to 加原形动词，其中它的 if 把它省略掉，然后把 were 移到句首，就会形成 were 主词to 加原形动词，这样的句型呢，则会是比较正式的用法咯。好，那么以上今天重点整理，我们回顾今天单字吧。
Deadly. When hiking in the woods, Freddie saw a deadly snake across the trail. Prey. The poor worm became prey for the hungry bird. Species. The professor discovered a new species of butterfly during her visit to the jungle. Possess. Dogs possess the ability to understand a range of basic commands. Predator. Eagles are among the predators that eat foxes. Permanent. The statue was meant to be a permanent honor for the great sports star.
Discussion Starter starts now!
Here's our discussion started for today, and the question is, which characteristics of chameleons would you like to possess and why?
Well, I would like to be able to have eyes that can move in different and separate directions. That way, when I go shopping for clothing, I can save time by surveying the department store more quickly with my two eyes and deciding what to buy.
Well, the characteristic I would like to possess that a chameleon does is being able to swing from tree to tree using its tail, because sometimes when we get stuck in traffic, it might be a good idea to be able to climb up to the trees, which line roads like Renai Lu here in Taipei or Dunhua Nanlu or something, and go up in the trees there and swing from tree to tree and go zooming past all the traffic.
Well, everyone, today's article has come to an end, and I sure hope you enjoy reading along with us. I am Helen.
I am Roger.
See you next time.